Welcome to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zoracle Profiles. I'm here with my co host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. Tracy, I have been wanting this woman on our show for 2 years now. So I'm so glad she's here. Alesia Visconti is with us. Alesia has 10 years with FranServe and started as a franchise consultant with them. She'll tell us her whole story around that. With more than 20 years experience as a president and CEO, driving organizational development and taking companies to the next level, today she and her team have grown FranServe to what it is now, the largest franchise consulting company in the world. Earlier this year, Inc. magazine recognized FranServe as one of the fastest growing companies in America. Highly active in the International Franchise Association, Alesia is on more than six boards and committees and travels to Washington, D.C. every year to speak with legislators on the laws impacting franchising and small business ownership. An author, professional speaker, owner of a leading franchise magazine, and a true entrepreneur, her motto in life is work hard, play hard, help others, repeat. So she's currently working on her first book in franchising, The Pink Tsunami, Women's Rise in Franchising. Welcome to the show, Alesia.
Well, thank you so much, Rebecca and Tracy. It's a pleasure to be on here, and I'm very excited. You left out that I am a science fiction nerd and a superhero fan, so I'll just add that as a PS to
That's
that
true.
description. Thank you.
Okay, then we need to start with the first question being, who is your favorite superhero?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I will tell you that typically I do like Supergirl, Wonder Woman. I'm typically into that, but I have a whole closet full of section just for all of my different costumes. So we won't say that I'm obsessive. We'll just leave that word out. I'm passionate. We'll say that.
One of
This is
my favorite ones is your is it Batman shoes?
Yes, definitely. Batman shoes. Oh yeah, I have a whole repertoire of that. Yes, indeed.
nice. Well, congratulations on your many accomplishments. Can't wait to hear about the book and so many other things. But if you can just take us back to how you got involved with FranServe and just maybe tell us a little bit about what FranServe does, that would be great.
Sure. Well, it's interesting. I'm not the founder of FranServe, but if you look at the name, it says FranServe, and I can't think of a better name for what we do. We're at the beginning of the situation when someone is thinking about owning a franchise. We are a consulting group, we are a broker network. It just depends on the language and who you're talking to, how that gets phrased. But what we really do is I say we're a business matchmaker, right? We kind of set up a date, if you will, with someone who's interested in owning a franchise. And what we do as consultants, or what my team does, is they narrow it down, right? There's several thousand franchises out there. And what happens when most people start to look and they click on something, it just gets overwhelming and confusing, and they get scared and they stop and their dream ends. So by working with the franchise consultant, we ask questions, figure out what they want to do, and then help narrow that down, narrow it so that there's 5, 6 brands that maybe they talk to. So we set them up on a date, if you will, for them to start talking and then see if there's a marriage, see if that works out that's best for them. And as an organization, we're paid by the brand, so the servicers are always free to our candidates.
Nice.
I love your service. It really is one that empowers and edifies the prospective franchisee. And I like the term we set them up on their first date. That is such a great way to see it, to see if it will lead to a marriage between a franchisee and a franchisor. Um, so give me the story when you look back. did you just happen on FranServe, or how did you actually get into this business? I mean, usually the story of getting into franchising is a kind of this kind of story. So tell us how you actually got into it.
Well, I did start at FranServe as a franchise consultant, as a broker, right? Just like my other, 700 brokers who are with me, and that gives me a lot of street cred with them because I walk that walk, right? But I got into it. No, I don't know anybody who at 10 years old says I'm going to be a franchise consultant when I wake up, right? When I grow up. So none of us do that. We all fall into it. I did too. I was a CEO and president of another company that actually helped executives climb up the corporate ladder. And I've been doing that for a number of years, had a couple hundred people working for me. And after a while, as great it was that was at the beginning, after a while, corporate America, I felt, just really turned its back on its own people with age discrimination. Women coming back from maternity leave were like invisible. Even like veterans coming back from tour of duty just struggled to find out, how to fit in. And that bothered me. That bothered me tremendously, that people that were great people were getting doors slammed. So I did what most people do when they need to find something. I went to the almighty Google, right, and punched in a bunch of things, careers, advanced, whatever, I don't know what, and something called a franchise consultant popped up, and I was like, "What the heck is that?" And that's really how I got into it. I just started to research that and vetted a couple of different groups and joined FranServe and did that for a year and a half before our founder retired and approached me and asked me, quote unquote, "How would you like to buy my baby?" And I think it took me like 2 seconds to say yes, because there honestly was nothing to think about.
I love that it was all born out of a passion to advocate for others.
Mhm.
Well, absolutely. I knew nothing about I joked that I could spell the word franchising, and that was my entire knowledge. That was it. Never owned a franchise, never even worked at one as a kid, like most people do. That was it. I knew nothing about franchising, but I felt in my gut instantly that it was the right path, and I've learned to trust my gut.
Yeah. Yeah, that intuition that we sometimes ignore is usually on target.
Mm.
So it's so wonderful that you listened to it and you've made a difference in so many people's lives, prospective franchisees, franchise consultants, as well as franchisors and the families thereof. So, Alicia, you've had a vast uh, amount of experience as a leader, and of course, currently growing and growing and growing FranServe. I'm curious, however, that if there's a kind of a theme or something in your life that tends to repeat itself, whether it's a motto you live by, or a book you read, a piece of advice you had, or just something that seems to bubble up and always be in your life.
I think for me, honestly, it's not really very complicated. I think we're on this planet for a reason, and I think it's to help others. I mean, otherwise, why do I get up in the morning, right? So for me, that's always been about that. Any business that I've gotten involved with has to do more. It has to impact someone's life. It has to do more. And there's nothing wrong. I mean, I need things that are done, you need to make a widget, right? You need manufacturing, you need those things. But for me, I need to do something more at the end of the day besides, P&L. If you're
Yeah.
in business, everybody wants to make money. Who doesn't want to make money if you're in business, right? Everybody wants to make money. That's a given. For me,
Mhm.
it has to reach people in a different way. And franchising for me is a phenomenal avenue for that, because our hashtag that I use the most, in fact, to the horror of my marketing team, because I don't always do hashtag FranServe, but I do hashtag changing lives. And that to me is the embodiment of FranServe. It is what we do. We change the lives of people who own a business, their family, generational wealth, the franchisor, employees, my own consultants. I mean, it impacts a lot on a very continuum basis. So yeah, it's that I have to do something more. Yeah.
Alicia, you must have so many stories of people's whose lives you changed or you helped to change or FranServe changed, either by becoming brokers or by selling someone a franchise. Do you have anything that comes to mind that you can share with us?
Oh, right off the bat, I can tell you when I was a franchise consultant, one of my very first candidate she was an engineer. I forget if she worked for IBM or Verizon, one of the really big companies. And she was a grandmother of 16. Which she
16.
never 16, yeah, 16 grandkids, which she never saw because she was constantly zipping around the world at all of these locations and doing all of this big executive, and she was miserable. And I worked with her to find a franchise. I could remember her actually putting herself in a janitorial closet to have a phone call with me so nobody would hear her while she was at some site or something. So for privacy, she put herself into a janitorial. So we got her a franchise, and it was in the food space. It was an ice cream one. And to this day, and now that's 10 years ago, it'll be 10 years in August, actually. To this day, every Christmas, she sends me a Christmas card with her and all of her grandkids.
Aw.
And they're grown a lot. But she talked about how much, and see, I still get chills when I think about that. And I'll tell you, it was a 3-pack. I made a nice little commission on it, but there is absolutely nothing that is more rewarding to me than that Christmas card every year. So that's one story of what it's like to have an impact on someone's life.
What a beautiful story. And like you said, you probably have hundreds of those, either that you yourself were a part of or you observed others helping someone through that. I guess I'm curious about, I'm seeing this intense passion that you have of wanting to make a difference, wanting to advocate others, wanting to educate others so they have different lives and more fulfilling lives. Um, can you talk a little bit about your childhood and how that was formative in this, who you became?
Yeah, I like how you say passion. I think I'm insanely passionate, about it. I
I
can
agree.
get very jazzed. So ladies, just calm me down if I start, going off on it. But so I do believe we are a culmination of everything that happens to us, the good, the bad, all of that. And when you're in hindsight, you can see it. When you're in it, of course, you can't. All you can see is, if it's something negative, is the misery. Well, everybody thinks I have this golden touch, and I always am, confident and whatever. And I wasn't always like that. My childhood was miserable to the extent where my mother was an abusive alcoholic. And as I always say, not that fun drunk. There's a fun drunk, and that was not her. So that was a miserable, miserable life. And I wish it on no one. I can remember, and being candid, I mean, I can remember I was probably 10, 12 years old and like starting to like fantasize about like pushing her down the basement stairs to try to like knock her off. So when you're at that situation, you either succumb to it, my life could have been horribly wrong if I had, given into that. Or what I did is I literally made a decision that I was not going to go down that path, that I was not going to let her be right, that I was this worthless piece of crap. Um, and I made a decision the way you make a decision, like I'm going to wear this skirt today. Like I made a decision. And that was that. That was a turning point for me. And I think everything I do is because of that childhood, is that I always want to empower others, help marginalized people find their voice. I can't deal with anybody who bullies or injustice. I will always speak up, even if I'm, labeled a disruptor. I just think that really guided me to, which side of the fence you're going to be on, right? And I watched my siblings go down the wrong path, and I saw that and had to step away from that. So I always say I'm an only child with family. right? Because I have family, but I feel like I'm an only child because I don't associate. And that was a hard decision, but it was the best one I ever made for my well-being. And that's what I mean when I say I made a decision that my life was going to turn out well.
Wow. It literally was a turning point, a single decision that created this ripple effect or this domino effect from that point on. I do find it fascinating that oftentimes it is the moving away from something, something negative, rather than I may not know where I'm going, but I know that's not it. I'm going to make a decision to do whatever is opposite of that to create this life. And then that naturally for you became about becoming an advocate for others. So talk a little bit more about that. You sit on various boards, you do things for veterans, you have this insane commitment to women, and even producing this book that's coming out this fall. Um, Talk about this advocate part of you. I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, you mentioned it. You said that, I made a decision, and I try to showcase that when I talk to people, that you can make a decision right on the spot to change your circumstances, your attitude, the way you think, and your future. Because often we feel trapped. I certainly felt trapped, right? So, people always tell me, oh, you don't have fear, you don't have the, I have fear, but, courage is having the fear and moving forward anyway. Right. And you summed it up perfectly, Rebecca. We're motivated by two things: pleasure. We move towards pleasure, and we move away from pain.
Right.
You'll move away from pain faster than you'll move to pleasure. Put your hand on a hot stove, you're going to pull it away in a second, right? So
Mm.
I use that, whatever that inner strength that I have, to help others. It's definitely a calling for me. It's a calling for many in the franchise space. And yes, veterans, I've never served, but I have a tremendous respect for people who have or will be or did or are currently. And we just at our FranServe convention, we just donated again. We do it every year. We donated $15,000 to VetFran, which is an IFA arm that helps veterans come into the franchise space. So yeah, we had an IFA representative, Paul Raccio, come out and up on stage, and we did a whole big to do about donating this to give awareness to all the brands that you can be part of VetFran, because I'm on that committee. So
Yeah.
yes, I'm on that. I'm on diversity, where we're helping people who are marginalized come into franchising. There's a program that's involved in that. We just donated $25,000 for that, so that one person will be able to get training and the whole full cycle to be a successful franchisee. So there's many opportunities for individuals to, rise up. And one of the things, obviously, that I'm very passionate about is women in general, and women coming into what typically has been a very male-dominated space of franchising. And I'm sure you ladies have seen it too, right? There's been tremendous change, but we still have lots to go. And that's why, I jumped into this book.
So tell us a little bit about this book.
So, like a lot of things in my life, I literally woke up. I kid you not. I literally woke up and I said, I'm going to write this book, and I know what it's about, and I know what the title is, and I know what the chapters are. And that's that. And I just started doing that. It just fell out of me. And I wanted to have it done by our convention, which was earlier this month, but with all my travel, I couldn't. So what I did do was a preview chapter, right? And my husband kept saying to me, why are you putting this pressure on you? You could do it, in January, you could release. And I said, because I thought about it now. That's why I have to do it now. I thought about it now. So I knew it was something that was important. There's lots of books written on how to own a franchise, how to be successful as a franchisee. Nothing about women in franchising or how women can learn to
Mhm.
be in franchising. So this is the first of its kind. And I hope I open a doorway. I hope more people come in and write about that. And what I wanted to do was show how women are coming into this space in all the different ways they could. Because some women definitely want to be business owners. And definitely a franchise is a fabulous, fabulous way, fantastic way for them to come into franchising. But as we know, not everybody wants to be a business owner. I mean, and then what do? Do you not come into franchising? And that's why I knew I had to write this book, because in corporate America, women typically make a lot less than their male counterparts for any, it's still like that. But in franchising, it's not like that.
Right.
Women and men, right? Salaries are much more equal, much more based on performance. It's a different world than franchising. So if a woman doesn't want to own a business, that's fine. But guess what? She can work for a franchisor. She can be a franchisor if she has the business herself. She can work for a supplier. She can be a supplier. She can do, if she's an attorney, she could be a franchise attorney. If she's in real estate, she can help do locations. There's a lot of things that people do every day that lends themselves to the franchise community, but no one's saying that. And so they're stuck in corporate America making crap money against male counterparts. If they would just understand the breadth of franchising, their lives would be changed without even having a business owner. And then they may want to, right? Once they get involved in franchising, they may say, hey, you know what? This isn't as scary as I thought. Maybe I will be a franchisee. Maybe I will start some. And there you go. Opens a whole new path for so many people. So that's why I wrote the book. And I knew it in an instant what it would be about.
The tsunami, the pink tsunami.
I went out and got the website and trademarked it before I ever did anything.
Another decision made and put into action.
Gotta roll with it, right? When you make a decision, you gotta roll.
Now I gotta do it now.
Yep.
So, so we are on similar paths, Alesia. As you know, we're all about talking to women and saying all these opportunities in franchising that you're not going to have in a corporate environment or doing things out there. And I also always highlight the community, the relationships that are built within franchising, where we don't see that competitiveness and bullying each other out of positions. We literally see woman to woman, man to woman, even doing whatever to. Well, do you see the same thing? That's what I've been observing for the last number of years. And I think it's brilliant where you're not out there duking it out, competing with your peers, where in franchising, they're lifting one another up.
Yeah, I think it's why it really is the franchise family, right? You hear it all the time, right? The franchise fam, the Fran fam, all of that, right? And it's so true. In corporate America, I really believe it's kind of old school where you pit each other, against each other to, try to motivate them. And it usually motivates people to leave or, I mean, it's such an old school way of thinking, right? Especially for younger generations where it's really about, working together in tandem. So I love that. And that's the culture of FranServe tremendously. So I welcome that. I mean, you look at just like something like the pandemic and how the franchise family came together to help each other. And corporate America was completely lost, had no idea what to do. And we came together and just started doing webinars and helping each other and PPP loans. And it really is the family, and I think that's why I feel that women do so well in the franchise space once they step in, because we're great communicators. We love, relationships. We enjoy that. We rise under that. We don't like to be that competitive. We like the sisterhood. And that's why I think we do so well once we come in. But it's just getting them through that door, which is what, I'm trying to do. And with ladies like you doing the same thing, that's what's important.
Right.
Of that effort. Rebecca, what is that statistic that you were talking about a little earlier about women in franchise?
Yeah, thank you for asking that, Tracy. We did some research a number of years back, Alesia, on I think it was 52 or 53 companies where we assessed the top performing franchisees within those companies. and 61% of the high performers were women. And keep in mind, in today's world, it's only 30% that are in franchising that are women. So this speaks to what you were just talking about. Somehow women rise in franchising as franchisees, as founders of concepts, as presidents and CEOs. They just seem to rise in this environment. So I really appreciate you also bringing up the statistic of the pay difference in corporate versus franchising, because I see the same thing.
Yeah, and why and why not? And what was really interesting, I mean, those are great stats, right? Numbers never lie, right? So those are great stats for women to think about when they're, the fear comes up, or, is this a good thing? You look at those numbers. I even in the book, I have a number of men in franchising who talk about the success of the women who are either in their brand or in their company, or so it's not just women promoting women. Men recognize it as well and want women to come into franchising because, being realistic, the landscaping changes. Franchising has changed than what it was, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. And newer generations are even going to take it further, right? So it's not just women who, espousing about having women. It's also the men. It's also franchising as a whole saying, yes, come in, people of color coming in. You see that more finally. It's opened up to a lot more across the board, which is what franchising is about, right? Your average Joe, your average Jill can afford, can be in franchising. It's not like it was, decades ago where you needed, $10 million just about, to open something. It's affordable and great. So why not be a part of it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
open to all.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to explore something for a minute. So it really struck me when you said you made a decision on your life earlier. So I want this to be very relatable for our listeners. So in order to make a decision, you have to ask the right questions, right? So if you're speaking to an audience of listeners, an audience of women who we want to encourage to come into franchise, what are those right questions to ask? What should they be asking themselves?
Do you want a better life for you, your family, your friends? I mean, it's, are you, if you're 100% happy where you are right now, that's fine. You can still explore something. But, to quote Tony Robbins, designing your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I work backwards, and I teach everybody at my company to work backwards, meaning where do you want to be at the end of this year, at the end of 3 years, at the end of 5 years? Where's your finish line? Because you have to keep your eye on the prize. If you got into a car today, Tracy, and you just started driving around, maybe you'd get to your destination if you wanted to get to Florida, but maybe you'd end up in Nebraska because you don't know where you're going. You don't have a map. So that's what I ask women. Where do you want your life to be? When you are, much older, when you're on your deathbed looking back, what do you have wanted? You have to design that. It doesn't happen just out of the blue. Sometimes it seems that way, but you have to take the steps to put it into play. So those are the questions. I mean, they're not difficult questions. It's what do you want in your life? What do you want for your kids' lives? Do you want generational wealth? Do you want to build something for them? What do you want? I hate to make it sound that simple, but it is that simple.
Yeah, it really is that simple. Um,
And people say financing, right? People worry about financing if they're going to have a franchise. I don't have the money. There's lots and lots of programs these days. I mean, there's funding companies that specialize in that. There's, 401 rollovers. There's a lot of opportunity that, again, if you don't take the little step through that door, you're never going to know about it. So that's all I ever ask of women is just take the step through. If it's not for you, that's fine. But I'm telling you, it can really be a game changer for you and your family. So take the step, explore. That you'll find that there's a lot of ways to get funding.
Thank you for sharing that. You know what? I really want to ask you some questions about your leadership, style, success. Everyone I talk to in the franchise community, and when we're talking about you and FranServe, just rave about you as a leader. So tell us what it is you're doing that is working so well. What makes you a great leader? What are you doing?
I think I'm blushing as much as the cover of my book right now, but thank you very much for that, Rebecca. Honestly, I hate to say that it's simple, but it's simple. I mean, I treat people the way I want to be treated or the way they want to be treated, and I respect them. I really believe that leadership is can happen for anyone, regardless of title. Title means, I mean, being honest, title means nothing to me, right? It's how you respect others, what you do to empower. One of the things that I do with my team is I give them lots of opportunities to make decisions on their own. I don't micromanage. I think it's disrespectful. If you have people that you've put in place, let them do their job. Otherwise, if you're sitting over them, then why are they on your payroll? But you're not being a good leader. So you have to expect that they're going to make errors if you do that. Which is great because everybody learns. I mean, I've certainly made my share of errors, so I never get on my team. I also talk about my team with a capital T. Anytime you'll see me write anything about my team, it's with a capital T, which the publisher of my magazine hates. She's always like, that's grammatically incorrect. I'm like, but it's right for me. So I always do a capital T because I feel that, right? I feel that they deserve that. And that's really it. I think that, if you get out of your own ego as I'm a CEO, if you get out of your ego that you know everything and you ever know everything the best and no one's going to do it as good as you, heck, most of my team does things. Most of the things that I end up saying is, yeah, I don't know. I have to ask Jerry. Yeah, I don't know. David knows more about that. I don't know. Check with Marla. Lena knows. I joke that I own the company and my team runs it. Right. So it's fostering that level of respect. And I literally tell them, I went on vacation. I told them no texts, no phone calls, no emails. Don't CC me on an email. I'm gone for 10 days. You got this. Figure out any of the problems. Unless the place is literally burning down and alarms are going off, I don't want to hear from you. You got this. And of course they did. Of course they did. It's good for them. It's good for me, but it's also good for the business. It has to be able to run feeling like that. Otherwise, why do I get up in the morning? I don't want to get up to be a dictator. I don't want to get up to micromanage people. I learned very young to be independent. I teach that. And I'm blessed because my team's been with me for 10 years now. We've grown, we've added people, but my core, I mean, what is there, 6 or 7? They've been with me for 10 years. We don't have turnover. And companies that have a lot of turnover cannot grow. You cannot scale because you're constantly taking 2 steps back. We never take a step back. That's why we can go as fast and as far as we have. That's why Inc. recognized us, right, as one of the fastest growing companies in America. It's because the team moves it forward like one unit. We all have different ways of thinking. I never like to hire people who think like me because I already know how I think. Why do I want somebody who thinks? I already know how I think. I want to know how other people think. So you have to have that respect that there's going to be conflicts at time in the way people think, and we handle it. Right? So that's it. Got to have fun too. Got to have fun. Got to be silly. Got to have silly, right? We take business serious, never ourselves. I think that's the key.
Yeah. So what's next? What's next for FranServe? What's next for you?
Oh, everything. I joke that I want to be the first broker group to franchise Mars, but it's only slightly a joke. I already know the name of my next book, and it's going to be Staying Pink in the Business World. So I haven't written the first one yet completely, but it's going to be that. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of opportunity coming up with younger generations to mentor them. I do a lot of work at the Palm Beach Atlantic University. We had students as our interns. We had someone from South Africa at our convention, young lady, Tanika, who was fabulous. I like doing that. I like helping people learn about franchising, about business, about fulfilling your dreams, about never having a ceiling, and never listening to the voices of others that are negative, but mostly not listening to your own voice is that negative. If I had ever listened to my own voice, ladies, I would not be here talking to you right now. My own voice was really negative, right? When you're a young kid hearing all that junk from your mom. So you have to just, say, yep, that's that negative stuff. Next, and move on.
Get out of the way.
Yep. Put on your superhero cape, and channel it.
Yeah. It's not like that. It's interesting as you're saying that because it's not just not listening to it, but flat out denying it, whatever those beliefs were that were instilled in us, that's not the truth about who we are and what is possible for us. You've shut the voices up and you've changed those beliefs by making a decision to do so. And that decision is made every single day. From the
Yes, that's a good point, Rebecca. It is, because those challenges come up all the time. No, you can't write a book. No, you can't do this. No, you can't be CEO. No, you've only been in the business 18 months. How can you buy this company? All those things, right, that come up on a daily basis. But what I always tell women is treat yourself the way you would your best friend. You'd never say things to your best friend that you say about yourself or that you think about yourself, right? Whether it's intellect, looks, achievements, whatever it may be, right? You'd never say those things. You'd want to support your best friend. Well, you have to learn to be your own best friend. And see, I learned that, from being a crappy childhood and having this big secret, right? I never wanted my friends to know I had this horrible abusive mother. So I had to learn to be my own best friend. It's come in handy, but women have to do the same thing, right? Do not talk to yourself the way, you would talk, you just wouldn't do it to your friend.
No. It's interesting. We're at the top of the hour here, so I hate to wrap up, but this part of you that advocates for others also is advocating for yourself. And I guess I hadn't seen that in such clarity before, that you're serving others, you're educating others, you're advocating for others, you're encouraging others, but at the same time, you're taking time for you and your mental state and your physical state and even aesthetics. You're really big into aesthetics, which is very therapeutic, very healing for us. So it really is both serving self, serving others. We can only serve others when we take care of ourselves, especially our mindset, as you pointed out. So thank you for bringing that up, because I hadn't put those two things together before. And we really appreciate your time today, Alesia. You are just a wise woman, and I'm so finally we're able to capture some time with you. So thank you.
Well, I am so grateful, ladies, and I appreciate it. And I always have to say it. Everyone have a fantastic day.
Fantastic.
Well,
Tracy, I'm going to
reach you.
Thank you.
Where can people reach you?
Oh, best way to reach me is on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way. And of course through our website. Yeah, I'm all over social media. So it's harder. You find my name, I'm probably the only one. So it's easy.
Thank you again. Tracy, do you have any final thoughts?
I have a lot of final thoughts. First, and you were just saying, like, people say you can't do this and you can't do that and you can't. So I pictured you wearing a shirt that says who? Says who? You can't do this, you can't do, says who? So, and that whole thing goes hand in hand with this concept of being decisive, right? Like if you can make a decision as a young person that you're not going to live a certain way or talk to yourself a certain way or treat yourself a certain way, or for that matter, let others define you, then imagine what each and every person can do as an adult, the decisions they can make to change their lives, turn their lives around, put their families in a better situation, advocate for themselves, become successful. So I just want to thank you for pointing that out and for being the example of that.
Well, and I appreciate that, Tracy, and that's it. It's lead by example, right? Because if I'm going to advocate it, then I have to take care of it myself. And, when it comes to decision making, we don't all make the right decision, right? But my feeling is always, so then you make another decision, right? It's the indecision. I always say, don't be a flat squirrel, right? The squirrel that goes to cross the street doesn't know if it goes that way, and then gets run over, right? So don't be a flat squirrel. Make a decision, right or left. If you go right and it doesn't work out in 3 months, then you go on a different path. But it's the standing and still that will never get you what you want, ever. Then you'll just end up with the same that you've always had, which is where you're not happy in the first place. So yeah, make the decision, move forward. And if it doesn't work out, make another decision. I've certainly done that. So just go for it.
Go for
Go
it.
for it.
Alesia, that's actually your third book. Don't be a flat squirrel. Don't be a flat squirrel.
Don't be a flat squirrel. Thank you, ladies. I so appreciate you all.
Thank you.
And thank you to our audience for joining us today on the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. Comment, share, like Alesia Visconti's interview today. And of course, we'll see you next week on another episode.